أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم. يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا. ليعذب الله المنافقين والمنافقات والمشركين والمشركات ويتوب الله على المؤمنين والمؤمنات وكان الله غفورا رحيما. صدق الله العلي العظيم. In the name of God, the infinitely good, the all-merciful. O you who believe, be careful of your duty to God,
and always speak the truth. God will reform your deeds and forgive your faults. And whoever obeys God and His Messenger, he indeed achieves a mighty success. Indeed, we have offered the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, and they declined to bear it because they feared it. But man undertook to bear this trust. Indeed, he was unjust and ignorant. And so, God will punish the hypocrites and those who associate others with Him, but will accept the repentance of the believers. God is all forgiving, all merciful. Please recite salawat. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you all for coming for tonight's program here at the Al-Mahdi Institute. The Al-Mahdi Institute is a charitable, educational, and research establishment. It is committed to serving grassroots communities through outreach activities and other work as a means to sharing the human face of Islam and the message of the Ahlul Bayt. As a grassroots funded organization, you are all kindly requested to donate to the Institute in whatever capacity you can. And this will allow the Institute to continue its range of activities, including public lectures such as this series, and other much needed inter- and intra-faith activities. There is a donation box at the back, or alternatively, you can give a donation to one of the volunteers, and they will make for you or organize a receipt for you. There is a parents with kids room upstairs for those who would like to use those facilities. Follow the signs upstairs or ask one of the volunteers and they will be happy to help you out. Parking. For those who want to leave early, please park outside the campus grounds. But do be mindful of the neighbors by parking considerately. Tonight's lecture was sponsored for the Isal Thawab of Marhum Haydar Haji, Marhum Dr. Kapasi, Zulkarnain Ladak, and all Marhumeens. Please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for these and all Marhumeen. Al-Fatiha. We will start with a lecture by Shaykh Arif, followed by Masa'ib, Matam, then Ziyarat, and then finally we will conclude the program with question and answer session with Shaykh Arif. These steps, in case the program gets very full, these steps are available for everyone to sit, even including here. And I request you all from now actually to move as far as you can to the front, because over there at the back the place gets clogged. And there's no place for people to come in the front. So please recite a salawat and stand up as you move in front. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Please, as much as you can to the front. And Shaykh Arif, I would like to hand
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
Al-Fatiha.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين شفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين وأصحابه المنتجبين ولعنة الله الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته أعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بأبي عبد الله الحسين عليه الصلاة والسلام. We stated yesterday that the worldview supplied to us by our theology. By theology, what we mean is what minds have understood from the communication received from God. It is something that does not sit well with our intuition. We will be using the word intuition quite often. By intuition, we mean something that we will explain later on in its existential capacity. But in a simple way, by intuition, what we mean is something that does not sit well within us. And we know that there has to be something more. It has to make sense at a more profound level, to a level that is satisfying. So we asked certain questions. And we stated, for most of us, we have been brought about from nothing into something. Then we have been placed on the face of this earth. And then we are expected to thank God for it. And then in accordance with His knowledge, we will act out the lives of our world, not being able to stray from what He already knows we will bring about. So His foreknowledge and immediate knowledge is absolute. And then He will reward us or punish us accordingly. That appears to be inconsistent with something within us that says there has to be a greater meaning to life than just this. For why did He place me on the face of this earth without asking me? If without asking me He places me on the face of this earth, then is it at all a bestowal? If it is not a bestowal, then should I thank Him at all? And then again, if I can't do contrary to what He knows that I'm going to do anyway, then what is the purpose of life? In fact, God falls from the pedestal of being God, becomes extremely inconsistent with our anticipation of a God. For indeed, if in His image is created another who is so blindly merciful, then how can the creator of this mother lack mercy? My mother would never deliberately place me at a place which is unbearable, and then on top of that punish me in doing that which she knew that I would already do. This does not make any sense. This is something which does not sit well with our intuition, the inner thing that we know there is a greater meaning, a loftier, deeper meaning. So that is how we use the word intuition. And we will explain intuition in its existential capacity as we go on slowly and gradually. We stated instead that the Quran says, as the young man read the verse, that in fact the question is not of us being originated from non-existence. The question is not even of us receiving a choice. For indeed, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were to have given us a choice, like little children, we would have taken on the choice. But then we could have still pointed the finger of blame at God and said, well, we were naive. Why did you give us such a choice? You knew we did not have enough knowledge of what we were doing. And we would have taken the life of this world. And now you see what is happening to us. It wasn't even a choice. It was a demand that we made. God goes out of His way to prepare the whole of this earth, everything within it, for us to have that opportunity. Opportunity for what? Something we need to discuss. And since God has gone out of His way to create everything, to give us an opportunity, that is the only way He can receive thanks from us, and He becomes worthy of being thanked. Similarly, if we have demanded to be in this world, and the only passage is the womb of the mother, then the mother ought to be thanked, because I wanted to come here. She is the one who sacrifices her womb for me, her night's sleep for me, her health and her figure for me, and the father sacrifices everything he has. in order to raise me, because I decided to come here, and I could only come here through that means. Now, whether I choose my parents or not is another discussion. I certainly believe we choose our parents. But even if we state that there is not enough evidence that we choose our parents, even then, the fact that I decided to be here according to the Quran, and the only way I could be here was through the passage of the womb, and that is what we will discuss today, shows that I owe them thanks, as God says 4 or 5 times within the Quran, and He joins thanksgiving of parents with His devotion in verse after verse. Now, from there we go on to the next set of discussion. That our naive understanding is that we were nothing, and then we just were created. The way the Quran uses the word creation is very different to the way we are understanding it. Quran uses the word creation in the meaning of fashioning. Isa, the Spirit of God, says, إِنِّي أَخْلُقُ لَكُمْ مِنَ الطِّينِ كَحِيئَةِ الطَّيْرِ. I create for you from clay the form of a bird. Creation here is used in the meaning of fashioning. God asks Iblis, Shaitan, Ma mana'aka, what prevented you, an tasjuda, to prostrate, man khalaqtu biyadayya, the one that I created with my 2 hands. 2 hands, creation here means to fashion. So creation is not the meaning of bringing something out of nothing into something. Yes, it does have that meaning. For indeed, if I were to draw a circle on a board, I have created that circle. It wasn't there in that way. But the material needed for the creation of that circle was already there. So creation does not mean from nothingness into something. It means from something into something else, to fashion. Yes, this is the way the Quran is using the word creation. Our story is very different. You see, we naively presume that death follows life. The Quran says it differently. The Quran says death comes before life, and death comes after life. The point of this and these discussions are to bring home that meaning of what we are and what is the purpose at hand and what is the nature of this opportunity. We have to take these baby steps in explaining things before we get there. So the Quran says, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. The one who created death and life in order to test which one of you is the best in deeds. He brings first then life. You can say it was a slip of the pen. Yes? Look at the other. How can you deny Allah, the existence of فَأَحْيَاكُمْ? You were dead. He brought you to life. ثُمَّ يُمِيتُكُمْ ثُمَّ يُحْيِيكُمْ. Then He will cause you to die again. Then He will bring you to life again. This verse is extremely clear. One of the beauties about the Quran is, leave aside the Muslim theology that imposes upon the minds the acknowledgement it's a miracle. I have asked my audience last week that we say the Quran is miracle. Have you really found it to be a miracle? And everybody shook their heads, no. And then they asked me, well, how is it a miracle? It has to be a miracle. By assumption, we believe so many things that we don't verify anyway. One of the beauties of the Quran is its high level of consistency. The words that are used, the structures that are used, and the sequences that are used are repeated. From that we know that the mind of the Prophet was not able to remember those verses that were recited in Mecca, and after 15 years the same sequence appears in Medina, and then after another few years the same sequence. One verse, for example, is repeated 5 times. The sequence is retained in different contexts, but the sequence is retained. Or every prophet, when they talk about Allah, they say Fatir samawati wal ard. Isa says Fatir samawati wal ard. Ibrahim says Fatir samawati wal ard. They don't say Khaliq samawati. They use the word Fatir. Very. There's a reason for the utility of the word Fatir. Anyway, that was a bit of a distraction from our main theme. But the Quran uses its words with high level of consistency. So we are assured from this that death comes before life. Now I don't have the time to make references to all these verses, but as many as we can. But what these verses are showing is that you are the stable factor, but in a state of death. You are, but in a state of life. You will be, but in a state of death. You will be, but in a state of life. This brings another meaning altogether about what we are. You see, normally we say, by life I become me. The Quran is saying no. Actually no. There is another issue to it altogether. You are the stable subject. You have always been there. I can give an example or analogy. Water is hot, then it is cold, then it is hot, then it is cold. The water is always there. The states of heat and coolness come upon it, making the water hot and making the water cold. So me and you, Allah says, kuntum, you were amwata, dead. فَأَحْيَاكُمْ, He brought you to life. It is here that we begin to ponder, I was, but I was in a state of death. Now I ask, as I said, we only have 5 days, and I don't think we'll finish the series of talks in 5 days, but inshallah, whenever Allah wants, we'll resume them after. So now I ask a question. So therefore, what is my identity? What am I? Now here comes the thinking on it. Do you know, when we open our eyes and we say, I am, that I am is a simple proposition. Anybody and everybody can undertake that exercise and say, I am. It's absolutely simple, and we are all the same at the level of this I am realization and recognition. That I am is most simple. None of us are different from each other. I am. Ibn Sina gives this analogy of man suspended in space. I don't feel it's accurate, but for what it is worth, and we're going to, inshallah, give our own take on it. Ibn Sina, in order to prove the existence of the soul, he says, imagine there is a person suspended in space. There are no sounds audible. There are no smells that he can smell. And there is no sight that this man can receive. And there is no taste. And the organs are suspended, the limbs are suspended in space, so they're not touching each other. At that point, the person, through this mental exercise, is deprived of all sense perception. Yes? All sense perception. Because the answer is, I see, I touch, I feel, but I do all this with sense perception. Now Ibn Sina is saying, conduct this exercise. You are suspended in space. There is nothing visual, there's nothing audible, there's nothing to smell, there's nothing to taste. At that point, you will still say, I am. I am. Deep in yourself, you will say, I don't know what, but I am. Yes? He uses this argument to prove the existence of the human soul beyond the material body. What I say here is that no. If you were to find a man suspended in space, then we have to assume something else. That if that man were to just be cloned right now, and then be suspended in space, no sense input, the man would never ever be able to bring about a proposition, I am, because the proposition I am is so sophisticated. There is another thing to it altogether. There is a state before I am of, now listen to this carefully, there is, I don't know what, I don't even know I. We are originally in that state. There is. This there is yearning for an opportunity to actualize itself. Can you see that? To be molded, to be fashioned with all the sense input and data. If we could awaken a man right now, clone a man and awaken it, if you were to cut his hand off, he won't realize what's happened because he doesn't understand the meaning of pain. Do you know this? If you want to see something, you won't know what it is. That is how simple that state is. And Allah says this in the Quran. هَلْ أَتَى عَلَى الْإِنسَانِ حِينٌ مِنَ الدَّهْرِ لَمْ يَكُنْ شَيْئًا مَذْكُورًا. Has there come upon man a time within era that he wasn't a thing worthy of mention? He was, but wasn't worthy of mention. It's a simple there is. That's what the Quran is talking about. Simple there is. And before we resume with this, we have to step back a little. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the human soul as one simple, single reality. Do you know this? And then from it, He creates its pair. Human soul in that state, and as we will come back to it very shortly, is not a male, not a female. It is genderless. It is a simple state of there is. A huge potential, just a potential, yearning to actualize itself. That is how me and you are. In fact, the evolutionary process dictates, and from the Quran I received this meaning, that the human soul was genderless. It is through the process of evolution and sophistication that we've become engendered in male and female. Look at the amoeba, the simple one-cell creature. It reproduces by itself. It is gender neutral. The human soul in itself is gender neutral. It's a state of there is. In fact, the truth about humanity according to the Quran is that me, you, and all of you there, we are one truth. If I were to inhabit your body, I would be you. And if you were to come into me, you would be me. It's the same awakening. It's the same there is in every one of us. I'll explain this further afterwards. It's just like me and you sitting in different machinery. I am still me. The machine has changed. Guess what the problem is? The problem is I forget the distance between myself and the machinery. I become the machine. That distance has to always be maintained. So now, the human soul is in a state of there is. It yearns, this want to open its eyes, to recognize itself, to actualize. That's what Allah says in the following verses about imma shakiran, imma kafura. Now, we gave him the opportunity. Either he is thankful or either he is one of those who are ungrateful. Now if we come to this life of ours, from there is to this I am that we all say I am, let's examine the nature of I am, shall we? When we open our eyes and we say I am, or we look deep into the mirror, into our eyes, we find a truth that we don't even recognize. Do you know this? Conduct these experiments at home. Look deep into your own eyes, within the reflection. You will say, either I am or there is, but I really don't recognize what is there. That will be the result. I used to do this test when I was a young child, yes, under the age of 10. And then subsequently, I've every year of my life, I've religiously done this, and it's still the same truth. There is just something there. I don't know what. Now this I am, that we say I am, it is something that is uniquely me. This I am cannot be created. How? When I move my fingers, these fingers' motion is a creation of my intention and exercise of my intention. Can you see that? They dare not defy me. When I think, my thoughts are my creation. When I speak, my speech is my creation. When I write, my writing is my creation. But my children are not my creation. I am a mere passage for their arrival. For I do not think into their heads, they think independently. Their thought process is not subservient to me. They are independently thinking. When I realize this and I draw back to myself, creation means something fashioned by somebody else, yes, in their full control. But that point in me, I am, is uniquely me. There is no control anybody exercises upon that but me. There is no control anyone has on that identity of mine that I call I am. There is no control of anybody but me. This is uniquely me. This is something that can never be created. If that is understood, then we say, then what is happening to this I am? How does it come about? It merely awakens. It just opens its eyes and realizes I am. What were you before? You were I am. I don't know. I don't even understand that before. Kuntum amwatan is that state of slumber in which there is a huge potential. There is. This opening of the eyes in this world is this I am. Yes? And this is the first life that we are in. Now think about this. This I am. It is so unique. It is so unique. It's amazing. It does not know any past. It does not know any future. And indeed, in the realest sense, there is no past and there is no future. It is always the present. Even if you write upon a piece of paper 2 hours ago and hold it up to yourself now, that piece of paper is in the now. The writing that you wrote 2 hours ago is not something of the past. It's always been undergoing its own now, and hence it will corrode and fade away with time because it's undergoing time. You will never ever be able to retain the past because there is no past. Past is a mere recollection of a now that has gone. Think about this. From 10 past 8 or quarter past 8 that we've been sitting here, we have been constantly in a progressive now. It's like a little ship that sails upon a stream. We see it there, we see it here, we see it here, we see it here, we see it here. But at all points, it is always in its now, flowing endlessly. It is only a recollection of its being there that we call the past. It is only an anticipation of its course being there that we call the future. But in the realest sense, it has always been in the now. Show me a past, show me a future. And these stars that adorn our skies, that we see, may not even be there. For the light that comes from them takes millions of years to reach us. Their past we see in our now and present. Everything is in the present. Even the past of the universe is in the present. And the future projections of the universe are in our present. So this awakening that we have, it is in the absolute now. It is uncreated. And if there is no past, and if there is no future, then me and you are both eternal and ever-living. Because there is no such thing as a future. There is no such thing as a past. It is all now. We are at once eternal. We are at once unending. This is our true nature. So that question of us being created goes out of the window altogether. All we can do is to suspend this awakening, and then when we awaken again, we resume from where we left off. Can you not see that? The fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks with Isa on the day of Qiyamah in the present shows what? That for God it's the absolute present. For God, Adam is created now. For God, Adam dies right now. For God, Adam is resurrected right now. Do you not see the conversations that God conducts within the Quran of the people of hell and the people of heaven. It is yet to come, but the conversation is in the present. Everything, but everything, is in the absolute state of present. So me and you are the great awakening of this universe. This is how grand our beings are. There was no choice in the way we understand. This was the only natural course from that slumber it is to, yes, I want this opportunity. But Allah said to the human being, it's a perilous path. You do know what awaits. The human said, let it be. The reward is grand, for I myself am my reward. If that is understood, then we come to the state of our identities. What are our identities? What do we understand as identities? You see, my features are a product of my DNA. I can change them. What that means is that my features do not constitute my identity. My taste of food is a conditioning I received within the cradle. My like and dislike were instilled within me from the cradle. My religion was given to me at birth. I often say this, the fact that 99% of the people will go and prove the truth of the religion of their birth shows that none of them have understood religion at all. If I was born a Sikh today, I'd be lecturing, hopefully, to a Sikh crowd proving the truth of Sikh religion. Even my religion does not make me, my identity. The fact that I can switch my religion shows that religion is arbitrary. The fact that the DNA is not from me, it's been given to me, shows it's not me. And the fact that I can alter my features shows that my features do not make me. The fact that I can change my gender shows that gender is nothing to do with me. In fact, my reality is beyond everything that I've imagined. I am at once colorless and the colorful one. I'll at once take birth and die, and I'm the eternal one. How strange is this? I am at once my punishment and my own reward. Indeed, this thing needs to be understood properly. So when it comes to our identity, we will find that everything that I consider as me has nothing to do with me. I am but a mirror in which things are reflected momentarily and then they leave. My sense of beauty always changes. The face that I could not stop staring at today means nothing to me. The wealth for which I would die, I can give it all away today. The death that I feared so much, today in the meeting of my most beautiful Lord, I yearn it and will embrace it. Think about these things. Nothing that was me, it was me. Nothing that is me, is me. This is the nature of the human being and the human soul. It is eternal. It is in the absolute present. It is absolutely undifferentiated. It is without any identity. The people in this world are people living in a very false world. It is not the true world in which they live. So now, what is happening here, therefore? Let us work towards the first response. Why have I come here in the way that I've come here? The answer is already there. You see, why do we take birth as babies in this world? You've seen, at a particular week, the child begins to notice the motion of the hand. Do you know why the child holds up his hand and starts looking? Before that, the child is unaware that they have any limbs or they have any control. They are slowly indoctrinated in their bodies. They slowly become accustomed to the world. And that is the only way. This is the root of this world. It has for this life. As they grow, together with realizing motion, color, hot and cold, together with arriving at the process of thought and thinking, they also arrive at the notion of I am and I am white, I am black, I am male, I am Muslim, I am Shia, I am Sunni, and that becomes a fixed stamp upon them. What happens in the process of a child is a natural thing. If it continues, then that is the failure of life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, have you seen these people? They are like the cattle. Nay, worse still. Allah says, they are like the walking, talking, eating, drinking dead. They are not alive. Well, amwat, they are dead. Why are they dead? Because they do not awaken. Let us give the beautiful story of Luqman. Luqman was passing by a village, and he was going to a village and he passed by a graveyard. Curiosity got the better of him and he began to read the headstones. Of course, you will say it's makruh to read it. I will say, go and tell Luqman. So Luqman reads, and he says, and that's why Muslims are never insightful, because it's makruh to receive any knowledge. In any case, he began to read. Yeah, well, my lecture would not be a lecture without some sarcastic remark, right? So, salawat. So he read that children had died at very tender ages. Somebody had lived for 2 years, 1 year, 6 months, 4 years. In fact, the oldest that he found was 5 years. So he went to the village and he said, oh people, did a plague or a sickness come upon you that took away the weak and the children? They said, no, Luqman, nothing of the sort has happened. He said, then why have so many children died? They said, Luqman, these were old men of 70s and 80s, old women. Luqman said, then why do their headstones bear such tender ages? They said, Luqman, the only age noted upon their gravestones are the ages in which they awoke and began to think prior to their death. For those were the only years of lives that they had truly lived. They hadn't lived a life before that. Our cradle that indoctrinates us, whether through religion, social norms, cultures, is a necessary process for us to come of age and then to step into the real life. What is the real life? The real life is for us to look inward and to introspect that really, am I a Muslim? Am I a Shia? Am I a Christian? Am I a Sunni? Am I a Buddhist? Am I a Hindu? You will find that all of these are colorings given to an untarnished being in order for them to conduct a life. At that stage then begins the stage of absolving ourselves of all these coverings. Isa was on his own journey, Musa on his own, Ibrahim on his own, Muhammad Rasulullah on his own. I am on my own unique journey. In fact, when I look at this great soul, Muhammad Rasulullah, Isa and Ibrahim, I take pride in my humanity because it's the same humanity that he has brought to such pedestals of completion. When I look at Yazid and Pharaoh, Saddam and Hitler, it's the same human, same essence that has fallen to that level. It is me here, it is me there. As we begin to look inward, we begin to see, no, restrictions are limiting me. There is nothing of the sort in the real life, in the real person. I am not a religion. I am not male. I am not female. I'm not wealthy, I'm not poor, I'm not healthy, I'm not sick. I have no status, I have no color, I have no direction. The beauty of life is, and as we will continue from tomorrow onwards, is to undertake this process. I am the great awakening. I need to recognize my own self. That is the first step into leading a purposeful life, to peel away bit by bit by bit. Naturally, this world is an evolutionary world in which we grow from weakness into strength. It's a constant, incessant process. Ibrahim became a prophet, then a messenger, then a confident friend of God, intimate friend of God. Then he becomes an imam. When he feels that his devotion to Allah is compromised through his son Ismail, he feels overwhelming love for Ismail. His inner relation with God suggests slaughter this distraction. When he comes through that obstacle, he becomes an imam. But what do we see? We see an evolutionary process, a beautiful evolutionary process. Moses hits somebody and kills them. He commits a crime and a sin. After that, he becomes a prophet. He is audacious and he says, Lord, let me see you by my eyes, naked eyes. It's an audacity from Moses. He falls, awakens. Allah says, I've chosen you as a messenger now. What is happening? At every stage, as these great prophets are unveiling themselves, they are coming to a greater pedestal of existence, a purposeful life. This is exactly what we see in the great souls that we revere. Look at Zainab. Look at the way she is. And look at her process of growth and evolution through absolving herself from all limitations. Do you know how weakened this Zainab is in the love of her Hussein? She's a very weak person in the love of her Hussein. When Ibn Abbas says, Hussein, why do you take Zainab with you? She knows well that her brother will respond, but fearing the response of Hussein, that Hussein may leave her behind, she does not let Hussein respond. She says, Ibn Abbas, it is unjust of you to place such a question to Hussein. How can Zainab live without her Hussein? In Karbala, Hussein, the enemy forces are mounting. Call your helpers. She does not rest. Call your helpers, O Hussein. On the night of Ashura, Hussein ibn Ali sees a dream. He recites a poem, O friend, all time woe unto you, as a comrade. How many have awoken in safety of your embrace, only for you to put them to rest beneath the earth by nightfall. She heard this poem, and she cried and slapped her face and lost her consciousness. She is so weakened. We see on the day of Ashura, before Hussein arrives at Akbar, Zainab gets there first. The reason is asked. Abbas Qumi responds that she knew very well that if Hussein were to see the dagger implanted deep within the chest of Akbar, he would lose his life with Akbar. She wished to become a veil between Hussein and the death of Akbar. But when Harun and Muhammad are brought back, Zainab is nowhere to be seen. Why? Least it embarrasses her brother Hussein. We find that she runs out of the tent behind her Hussein to be assured that he is still alive. This is how weakened this sister is in the love of this brother. Come with me and see what happens. As he makes his way for the final battle, she calls out, Mahlan, Mahlan, Ya Aba Abdullah. Pause, O Aba Abdullah. Let me behold your face one last time. For when again shall I see you? He looks at her and she says, Oh brother, in whose care did you leave your sister? he embraces her and says to her, O Zainab, bear it with patience. Do not tear the arteries of my heart with your tears. For indeed your grief shall know no end after me. She looks into his eyes. Take the good tidings, O son of my mother, that your sister shall bear to an extent that you shall be pleased with her. This is Zainab. Now come with me. It is the 11th of Muharram. The body of Hussein is without a head. His chest is torn into pieces. Parts of his limbs are missing. Stones are thrown upon him. Her hands are tied like a captive. She arrives at the body of Hussein by deliberately falling off the back of the camel. She looks, observes Hussein, and she looks towards the sky. And she says, Allahumma taqabbal minna hadha al-qurban. O Lord, accept this offering from us. Ibn Ziyad is poking at the head of Hussein with his cane. You had a good set of teeth, O Hussein. Then looks at Zainab. Did you see what Allah did with your brother? Zainab looks at the face of Hussein. And this is Zainab, who has come to this pedestal of existence. Ma ra'aytu illa jamila. I have not seen but the beauty of Allah prevail. Matam Hussein.
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein.
अभी आती है सकीना की सदाएं लोगों, हाय जिंदानों से अभी आती है सकीना की सदाएं लोगों, हाय जिंदानों से अभी आती है सकीना की सदाएं लोगों, हाय जिंदानों से। मेरे बाबा को मिला दो, मैं दुआएं दूंगी, सिसकिया लेके जो कहती थी मुसलमानों से, अभी आती है सकीना की सदाएं लोगों, हाय जिंदानों से अभी आती है सकीना की सदाएं लोगों, हाय जिंदानों से। बोले सजाद सकीना ये मुकद्दर तेरा, बोले सजाद सकीना ये मुकद्दर तेरा, बेकफन तुझको लिए फिरता हूँ बाजारों में, और लहू आज भी जारी है तेरे कानों से, अभी आती है सकीना کی صدائے لوگوں زندانوں سے ابھی آتی ہے سکینہ کی صدائے زندانوں سے جا کے مقتل میں پکاری یہ سکینہ رو کر جا کے مقتل میں پکاری یہ سکینہ رو کر بھیا قاسم شیطانوں سے ابھی آتی ہے سکینہ کی صدائے لوگوں زندانوں سے ابھی آتی ہے سکینہ کی صدائے لوگوں زندانوں سے چلی گئے سے تیرے ساتھ سبھی تیرے زینب جب چلی گئے سے تیرے ساتھ سبھی تیرے زینب اور محمد اکبر یاد آتے ہوں گے لوٹ کے آئی جو ہوگی تو قید خانوں سے ابھی آتی ہے سکینہ کی صدائے لوگوں آئے زندانوں سے ابھی آتی ہے سکینہ کی صدائے لوگوں آئے زندانوں سے لب دریا سے علمدار لے کے آئی یہ صدا لب دریا سے علمدار لے کے آئی یہ صدا اے سکینہ تجھ سے شرمندہ چاچا تیرا پانی پہنچا نہ سکا کٹے شانوں سے ابھی آتی ہے سکینہ کی صدائے لوگوں آئے زندانوں سے ابھی آتی ہے سکینہ کی صدائے لوگوں آئے زندانوں سے محمد وآل محمد صلوات
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا حبيب الله السلام عليك يا نبي الله السلام عليك يا خاتم النبيين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى السلام عليك يا حسين الشهيد كربلاء السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الجواد السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي العسكري السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان الأمان 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 من
فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان، السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Brothers and sisters, we're going to have the question and answer session right now. Please take your seats, and inshallah tea will be served after the program in this hall. We're going to have a rolling mic. If anyone has a question, do raise your hands. But I would like to tell you that please keep your questions pertinent to tonight's topic. So take your seats, and inshallah we shall commence. Please recite as-salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
Can we recite a Surah Fatiha for the well-being of the mother of our sister Nasimbai? She is unwell and extremely weak. For her well-being and well-being of all those who are unwell and sick, Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
How do we establish the interpretative meanings of Arabic words? For example, the word khalq. When do we know it means to create, and when do we know the same word, or it's a word generated out of it, means to fashion?
Creation means to fashion. Khalaqa within the Quran means to fashion. Now, there are other words which have a variety of different interpretations. These are known through their own contexts. For the most part, a person does not need to understand the Arabic language in order to get a sense of purpose of existence from the revelation of God. However, the esoteric meanings that are there within the Quran do require the understanding of the Arabic language, because each word has a variety of fluctuations that you can acquire, and you can look at all of them to derive different meanings. But at the face value, even then if we read the Quran, at a simple primary level meaning, or the apparent meaning that we call, that in itself will be sufficient to convey, yes, the sense in which the words are being used. The other thing is that we do need a good translation, and of course a sort of an explanatory translation if you want, or an exegesis or commentary that explains the occasion of the revelation of those verses, in which case then we will get an understanding of the context, and through that we become more insightful as to what the word means. So the Arabic language is not a handicap. If you don't know it, it doesn't matter. Read it in English. However, people should try and understand and learn the Arabic language and the communication of God through its own medium and language. But not knowing that doesn't mean that it's inaccessible. You can still access the profound meanings within the Quran. Yeah?
Which exegete do you prefer to draw your knowledge from?
I don't use any English exegesis, sorry. No.
Any translation of the one that you do?
Abdul Halim, is it? It's a good one. And the one that we managed, he was also very good. Shirazi's, what was it called? Shirazi's translation. This gentleman who came here in the 70s. Yeah. His translation, it's not a translation, it's an explanatory sort of translation. It's also very good. But it's not a translation. It's good to have a translation, and the explanatory translation together.
How do we establish which exegete is more reliable, Shirazi or Tabatabai? How do we establish?
No. Let's just get that. See, look, what you got to understand from looking at an exegesis is that what are the sources that talk about the cause for the revelation of this verse. Here, they're not different at all. Okay? They will give you a variety of causes of revelation. That's the first thing. Beyond that, what you will read is the individual interpreter's own interpretation of that verse. There, they are duty-bound to provide evidences. So if author A says that this means this, they would have to support the claim by saying that, look, the same verse is used elsewhere and it is in the same meaning. And it's used elsewhere, it's the same meaning. Or linguistically or lexicon sort of meaning of it is this. They would have to provide evidences. And you will not be at the mercy of the author. You will have to use your own mind. So for example, if somebody takes a verse and it says that, look, according to this verse, we are allowed to cheat the non-Muslims, your own intuition will counteract that and say, my intuition does not allow me. As I said, we'll explain the meaning of intuition more thoroughly as we go along slowly and gradually. My intuition does not allow me to understand this to be from God and provide the evidence. You must always have that final discretion in accepting or rejecting, whether it's Ayatollah Tabatabai, Sheikh Makarim Shirazi, or whoever else. Tabatabai is obviously far more thorough and mystical and philosophical and sociological. He brings all these elements inside it, and he cross-references the Quran often, again and again and again. It's brilliant and phenomenal. And Makarim Shirazi's is the one that's available to one and all, utmost easy to read and very accessible. Yeah? But forget about all the exegesis, just read the Quran first. And wherever you're stuck, read the cause of revelation.
Any other questions? Yes. Bismillah.
You mentioned quite a few times in your talk about evolution. So is this in context of Darwin's theory of evolution?
To be honest with you, the Darwinian theory of evolution falls into a greater notion of evolution. Yes? Mullah Sadra, taking from the teachings of the mystics, develops a philosophy in which every species undergoes mutation and becomes something else. So according to Sadra, who came 300 years before Darwin, he says stones become minerals, minerals become plant become animals, animals become humans, human rise to the level of becoming angels or descend to the level of becoming demons. Now, Mullah Sadra described it as a very real evolutionary vertical trend. Even becoming demonic is a vertical trend. They all go hand in hand, yes? Whether you're angelic or demonic. So they express the same sentiment. What Darwin did was, so this was the vertical level. Darwin did was he explained the mechanism of evolution at the horizontal level through survival of the fittest and natural selection. Now, even if we say we do not find sufficient evidence to support the Darwinian theory of the evolution of human beings, yes, because we don't see the middle links between the apes and humans, that does not mean that in principle the theory of evolution is flawed. It doesn't at all. The whole of this universe, the physical universe or the five-dimensional universe in which me and you find ourselves, has the nature of evolution as its hallmark and fabric. You will see a fetus growing into a baby into a young child into a grown adult into a moral person into a spiritual person, or a big demon, and then going on their way. Yes, we find from the Big Bang till now the universe has always been evolving, unfolding its own self, unleashing its own potential. Yes, so we can't deny the process of evolution. Our literature, theological literature, suggests this. The Imams have said there have been many species before you on the face of this earth. They have all gone, now it's your time. After you go, others will come. And it seems it's in the evolutionary trend, we are all evolving. The next species that will come will take off from where we leave. Will begin from where we leave off, yes? Just as we have taken off from where the others left off. And we might even have been coexisting with other species. So now, if we can't find the evolution of Adam, we can't locate it on the face of this earth, then we have to locate it in the wider universe somewhere. Yes, but evolution is the hallmark of our existence, undeniably. Not only the physical one, the intellectual one, the moral one, the spiritual one, name it. The essence of this existence is evolution.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I can understand يخرج الحي من الميت ويخرج الميت من الحي. But is there any verse that says I create from death?
No.
But except in the plants.
Yes.
In plants, some of them are dead.
Yes. That's true. True. You see, there is one verse. خلقكم فصوركم خلق in Araf. And that's why I always like to have you in the audience. Because you will point out the verse. He created you, He fashioned you. ثم قضى للملائكة اسجدوا لآدم. It's amazing. You see, we are not reading the Quran at all. It's amazing. We are just not reading it. If you look at, I've given certain lectures on the Quran, they're on YouTube, and certain others that have not appeared yet, but please listen to them. The subtleties of the Quran, all the tafsir lessons that we have in the evening, these subtleties are phenomenal. Allah said, we created you, then we fashioned you. So He's using now the word khalaqa and sawwara as two different stages. But then what He does is He says, then we said to the angels, prostrate before Adam. So the plural goes and a singular comes. We created you, then we fashioned you, then we said to the angels, prostrate before Adam. So that just shows me and you and Adam, maybe me and you are Adam. Can you see that in that way? Adam is a composition of all of us together. So the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses these words with subtlety and the sequence is phenomenal. However, the word creation has never been used in the meaning of what we derive, that from non-existence into existence, yes? Yes, but we can say non-existence into existence has a meaning as well. Because if I'm just a lump of clay and Allah fashions it, He has created something new from its non-existence to existence. But it does not mean it has created ex nihilo, as we say, from nothing. It has been created from something. So creation always presumes something from which something else is made.
How we elaborate on this? There are thousands of Adams before Adam.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You see, there were species before we came, and before them there were other species, and before them there were other. It's an evolutionary trend. And we should not be so hung up about ourselves. After we die, there will be another Adam, not with the Father. In any case, this, what I was talking about was this awakening. You see at night when you sleep, yes? If you sleep. 8 hours peaceful sleep. In the morning when you wake up, what do? You resume from where you left off at night. Yes? There is no regression within the human soul. Now, somebody might point out certain cases in which people have regressed. We will have to explain that at some point. But what I was trying to say, my only point was that this awakening, yes, is not to be understood as creation in the way that somebody has control over me. This awakening is something profound. It's something profound. It's in the absolute present. It doesn't have a past. It doesn't have a future. The universe doesn't have a past, doesn't have a future in the rightest sense. It is eternally present. So when I say I have awoken and I am totally independent in that state of, look, my actions are not independent, as we'll talk about it tomorrow. My identity is not independent. But I am, when I say I am, it's independent. Nobody's controlling this but me. and it's in the absolute present, that shows a different story altogether. That it is not me being created as naively I think and given a choice and then sent into this world. I am the eternal being in the absolute present, and there is no control anybody exercises on me, and this is what we will develop in the next 2 or 3 days to explain the whole thing.
Does it apply to Adam and Eve as well?
What's that? The awakening?
No, the creation.
You see, look, Adam was just a statue. That wasn't the real Adam. Can you see that? That was just a statue with fingers and hands and all that. Look at the Quran, what it says. وَإِذَا نَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. And when I blow into him of my spirit, fall prostrated in front of him. What does Allah say? My spirit. My awakening inside him. Isn't that something? There is a dormant potential. It is. Undifferentiated. I blow my spirit into him and he'll say, I am. How amazing is this? And that's what Adam says. Who am I? Who are you? Can you see that? This is the first question Adam asks. Who am I? Who are you? Am I? Can you see that? These are the fundamental questions there. And at that time Adam realizes he is not a man, he is not a woman, he is not black, he is not white, he is not old, he is not young. Black and white are inside him, man and woman are inside him, young and old are inside him. They are all in him. He is one, none of them and all of them at once. This is the grand awakening that we have in the eternal present. Yeah? Well, as I said, I will not be able to finish this course, these talks, in the next 5 days. Yes? So inshallah we can resume them afterwards.
So we have now concluded tonight's program. Thank you very much. Let's recite a salawat, and we can Salli ala Muhammad, Muhammad. Tomorrow we will start with a lecture by Shaykh Arif again tomorrow, followed by Masahib, Matam, Ziyarat, and then finally we will conclude with a question and answer just like tonight. There's a donation box at the back, or alternatively you can give a donation to one of the volunteers who can organize a receipt.